Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. As always, here with my main man, Corey in the corner. What's up, big dog?
What's up, everybody?
I watched a movie last night, and they said, don't ever put baby in the corner. Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Yeah, nobody.
That's what I thought of, man.
Don't ever do it.
Hey, happy anniversary. Corey and Lauren celebrate 14 years yesterday.
Thank you so much.
14 years?
Yeah, dude, 14.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Good, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's incredible.
I appreciate it.
What'd you eat?
I had a steak, dude. Of course I had a steak.
I don't know why I even asked.
Always got a steak.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad y'all had a good day. You know, it's a huge accomplishment. So many of you listening have been married for extended amount of time. Some of you 60 years, some of you 5 months. So it can be done. I mean,
yes, it can.
You know, we're over here just grinding and adding stats every day, baby. So that's awesome. Every year is an accomplishment, man. Marriage is such an amazing thing, such a gift from God. So this week, a couple of quick things. In the sports world, for those of you who didn't see, Sunday the Kansas City Chiefs lost again, and Travis Kelce, they made like this 50-yard play. Travis Kelce down to like the 20, throws it back to Kadarius Toney, throws it behind the play in an incredible athletic play. Toney scores, and then they called the play dead because of offsides. Now, you could be on either side of that call. For those of you who are in the sports world, you understand this. For those of you who aren't, look it up. I promise you the play is beautiful. The offsides. It was offsides. Whether they should have called it is questionable. But it was probably the best NFL. It's the best play in the NFL I've seen all year.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was absolutely insane.
It's amazing.
But how do you feel about it? How do you feel about the play?
I think the call was right in that he was offsides. Yeah. I mean, it's what it was. He was offsides.
Yeah.
It is a gray area where do you call it? They used to not call it every time. They said last year, I think it got called 3 times. This year it's been called 11 so far.
Yeah.
So they're calling it more. I mean, in the NFL, being, offsides by a foot if you're on the offense is a huge advantage because everybody runs 4-3s. Yeah. So a foot difference in a 4-3 is like running a 4-4, or a 4-2, whatever. So I understand there's a reason the rules exist to call them. I think when you start arguing, well, he was offsides, but you didn't tell him, he shouldn't have called it. It's the NFL. They're professional athletes.
Yeah.
I think you blow the play dead when it starts. I don't know how it got that far, and then they called it out. I don't know how that call works. I would think an offsides is like you blow the play dead. So the fact that the play went, everybody was going crazy. There was never a flag. Or maybe there was. I don't know. But the way it looked was that, nothing got blown dead. So I was just curious. I don't know if an offsides is where if the defense picks the ball off and it's live. I don't know how that works. Because I know with the defensive offsides, you can throw a touchdown on the offense. A lot of times they'll just air it out so they can go for the deep ball.
Yeah.
They don't throw like a dump pass if the offense knows it's an offsides on defense. They're just going for the goal because if you miss it, you get a 5-year penalty. So might as well throw the deep ball. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the same rule. If that's the case, they should just, throw the ball on the ground. But, I thought it was the fact the NFL, there's a lot of talk about the officials, and calls they missed and calls they made. I mean, we're just years away from eventually it's going to be all AI. So
just robots.
Matter. It's going to be robots. It doesn't matter. But,
robots running down the field. Yeah,
so,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it was a great play. The call was right. Was it the right time to call it? Is there a gray area with what gets called, what doesn't? Do you let the guys play? I'm not in the NFL. I haven't been on the field. I know that I played receiver all throughout high school and college, and you always check, and they tell you if you're on or off. They'll say you'll say I'm off, and they'll tell you you're good. Or if you say I'm on, they'll tell you you're good. It looked like you did that. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But congrats to, I know LeBron is listening, so congrats to you, LeBron, for winning the NBA in-season tournament.
Okay. I don't know anything about this.
NBA in-season tournament, man, the first one ever. The Lakers won it, so congrats to LeBron and the Lakers.
Huh.
And then, breaking news, they say that the Patriots are going to part ways with Bill Belichick at the end of the season.
Oh, wow.
And when asked about it today, just 2 minutes ago, he said focusing on Kansas City, which means they made an agreement. And Bill Belichick lingo, for anybody who has watched him over the last 20 years, that means I'm not talking about it and it's official, right?
Yeah.
So that means the Washington Commanders will have Bill Belichick as our coach next year, I'm assuming. Probably have John Elway as our quarterback.
Oh, man.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Who knows? I can't see Bill Belichick and the Patriots agreeing to part ways and then Bill Belichick not coaching anymore. I mean, maybe he's going to be in the front office of a team. Maybe he will, and then there's the argument, like, Bill Belichick didn't have a ton of when he was a defensive coordinator in New York. They won. The Jets won. They ended up. I think he was on Bill Parcells' staff when the Giants won the Super Bowl. I could be wrong about that. But he had success as a coordinator. But him and Nick Saban were on the same coaching staff in Cleveland, and Cleveland wasn't that good. They got fired.
I've told you this, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, all that to say,
you need another person in your corner. But yeah.
Well, I'm just saying this for all those listening that are in tune with this. I think that you look at Bill Belichick and you look at Robert Kraft, and that organization wasn't anything until Tom Brady got there, and he wins those Super Bowls, and Tom Brady goes to Tampa Bay and continues to win a Super Bowl, and Patriots fall apart. Is Bill Belichick great without Tom Brady?
It's a good question.
Tom Brady kept winning, and he went down to a Tampa Bay team that had nothing going for it. I mean, they had a couple of big players, don't get me wrong, but everybody knows Tampa Bay was not going to win a Super Bowl. Yeah. And Tom Brady goes down there and takes players with him, and they ball out, and they win a Super Bowl, destroying the Chiefs. The Patriots haven't done anything since Tom Brady left.
Yeah.
Anything. So is
true.
Bill Belichick the greatest coach of all time without Tom Brady? No.
Yeah.
In my opinion, not a chance. Is Tom Brady the best without Bill Belichick? I think Bill Belichick and Tom Brady make a great duo.
Yeah.
But everybody knows the quarterback position is the most important position in all of the history of the NFL. Mm-hmm. So, like Andy Reid with a Patrick Mahomes, is he winning the Super Bowls? Probably not. Is Patrick Mahomes winning without Andy? Andy Reid's an offensive coach. So when you got a coach like Bill Belichick, who's a defensive coach, I don't know the answer. What I do, only thing I can do is tell you the facts. Tom Brady won without Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick has not won without Tom Brady. Now, when Bill Belichick was on a staff, he won.
Yeah.
But as a head coach, so I'm just telling you the facts. Do I think he's a great coach? Yeah, I think he's a great coach. But the Patriot way was the Tom Brady way.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
That's all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
The stats are what they are.
Can't argue that.
Do I think he's a great coach? Sure. I think he's a great coach. There's no doubting that. But Tom Brady, I think it's evident that, when you got a quarterback like that, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Something interesting, too, is a lot of, last week the college football playoff announced that they are taking Alabama and leaving Florida State out. And I heard Nick Saban make a comment that we've been in this position too as Alabama. He says, we've been here. We've been left out. And I was thinking about that comment, and I'm not denying that he hasn't been. But my thought was, when has an SEC champion ever been left out of the college football playoff that's undefeated? I would say never.
Yeah.
So when you have an ACC champion that's undefeated left out of the playoff, it's very different than feeling like you're snubbed because you have a one loss. You were the number one team and got beat in the SEC championship. If you're a undefeated champion of a Power 5 and you get left out, I'm pretty sure nobody's ever felt that before because it's never happened. So yeah, you might have felt left out, and I'm not saying you don't, but nobody. You say, well, I've been there before. You might have been there and can relate to feeling left out, but you've never been there as an SEC champion that's undefeated. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
And what's bigger, Alabama beating the number one team in the nation and Georgia, or Florida State winning with their second and third string quarterback in the swamp against Florida and then in the ACC championship against the number 12 ranked Louisville? What's bigger? Winning with a third string quarterback? Maybe. He had 54 yards or 55 yards passing. I would say that's just as big of a feat as Alabama beating Georgia. When you can win with a third string quarterback against a top 12 ranked team in the nation in the ACC championship game. At what point do we start measuring? I mean, it's an eye test. Do I think Alabama would beat Florida State? No. I don't think anybody could say anybody could beat Florida State. If Florida State loses to Georgia, everybody say, well, they made the right decision. You can't say that. You just can't say that. So all that to say, that's my 10 cents on the sporting world right now. But the Florida AG, the Attorney General, is launching an investigation into the College Football Playoff Committee as an antitrust investigation. And the Florida AG came out and said, she's like, I'm a Gators fan. I'm a Gators fan. But she's like, for every team and all the coaches and players, we're launching this investigation on behalf of the state of Florida and Florida State because they believe that there is bias and that it was an unfair verdict. And I don't know that there's too many people that disagree. I think there's people who think they're experts. They'll say, oh, Alabama's better. Again, on the field, the ACC was 6-3 or 6-4 against SEC teams this year, which means the ACC beat the SEC. SEC is not what it used to be. People can say what they want, but the ACC had a winning record against the SEC this year. And the SEC was in a place where they might not even have gotten a team into the playoff unless they let Alabama in, a one-loss team. And the only reason Texas gets in is because Alabama got in, because Texas destroyed Alabama in Bryant-Denny Stadium in Alabama this year. So the only reason that Texas ended up getting in the college football playoff was not because they were the Big 12 champ. Nobody's impressed by that. They lost to Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. The reason that they were in the college football playoff is because Alabama is in the playoff, and there's no way they could give Alabama a playoff spot without a one-loss Texas team. It's a Big 12 champ that beat Alabama. That's why they're both in. That's why Florida State and Georgia are looking from the outside. Because in reality, I think Georgia and Alabama play 5 times. Georgia wins 4.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, Georgia has a bone to pick. They were how do you go from number 1 to number 5? Alabama was, I think, number 7 or 8, went to number 4. Florida State was number 4 and went to number 5. It's chaos. You're telling me that the whole year you have no idea how to rank these teams. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then Washington's undefeated Pac-12 champ. They beat Oregon twice. Oregon was in the top 10 both times. They beat one team that was in the top 10 twice, and they get a number 2 seed in the college football playoff. Well, Florida State beat LSU when they were ranked early in the season, first game of the year, and they're an SEC team. And what does that mean? Nothing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, LSU was a top-ranked team when they got beat. And so it's just none of it makes sense. And they're saying, well, they're a different team now than they were then. They're undefeated. Who cares what you think they are? They have not lost. And I heard some analysts saying, well, it's a good decision because it's that. I just don't understand the logic. How is it a good decision to leave out a undefeated Power 5 team that went 2-0 against the SEC? And it just doesn't make any sense. It is 100% biased. You can say what you want. The system is flawed. Everybody knows that. But for people who have a strong stance that Alabama should have made it, I strongly disagree. And the reason is Florida State was an undefeated Power 5 team. Even without their quarterback, they won the last 2 games, one in the swamp in Florida, even though it wasn't a great Florida team. Yeah. Period. So I just don't understand the logic. You're going to tell me a one-loss SEC team is better than an undefeated Power 5. I just don't agree. I don't see how you can have that reasoning. I certainly don't think that a one-loss Texas team is better. So I think it's just you get Texas and Alabama, these big Midwest powerful, these schools are massive, and people can say what they want. It is a money decision. Yeah. I don't believe for a minute that College Football Playoff Committee, when they saw Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide, they abandoned ship.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, it's abandoned ship. It's Alabama. It's Nick Saban. He hasn't earned that. Nick Saban's a great coach, but he hasn't earned the right to just run his way into those big games. Yeah. It's not right. Norvell, in my opinion, Florida State coach, he coached his team without his star.
Yeah.
And continue to be undefeated. To me, that's a greater coaching feat than beating number 1 Georgia any day. Yeah. You're winning with players. Alabama had Milroe. He starts playing his great quarterback position, starts looking like a Heisman candidate, and he starts coming on strong. Well, that's great. And Alabama's great. I mean, Nick Saban's a phenomenal coach. Maybe the best to ever do it. But on the flip, Norvell, I think he had what he did in coaching was more impressive to me. When you win without players, it's more impressive than winning with them.
Agreed.
And he continued to win.
Yeah.
So that's my rant. It has been boiling. And I know D was on here last week, and he's a huge Florida State fan. We didn't get into it too much, but I think it just shows how upside down our world is, man. Like the reasoning that you can tell me they deserve it versus an undefeated Power 5 when you've always said undefeated Power 5 have never not made it. You're telling me right now, if Florida State has one loss, then an Alabama undefeated SEC champ doesn't get in? Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's when you flip it and people laugh. It's like, because the SEC is not what it used to be. People can say what they want. Do I think Alabama could win it? Well, it's 4 teams. Anybody could win it. Doesn't mean they were the best.
Yeah.
They didn't play Florida State. So to me, Florida State, there's an asterisk on this year's national championship. Not to mention, I love Michigan, but Michigan had controversy all year. Their coach was suspended multiple games for cheating. Nobody said anything about that. They're an undefeated Big Ten champ, so you're rewarding them. And they had a cheating scandal all year. They had to coach with secondary coaches. And yet you have Florida State who ran every play the way you wanted and by the book, and they got left out. At some point, somebody has got to look at this thing and say, this is screwed up. Yeah. Do I think Michigan deserves it? Yes. Do I think Washington deserves it? Yes. But I think you got to look at these undefeated. It just, when you're asking somebody to do everything they can, they do it, and then you don't reward them.
Yeah.
That's the character of the organization, in my opinion.
No, yeah. And talk about an underdog story, dude. Third string quarterback. Come on. You can't write a better story than that.
He didn't have to have a lot of passing yards. Their defense shut it down. So what if Florida State has no offense and they end up winning 3-0?
Yeah.
Saying, well, that'll never happen. How do you know?
Yeah.
Tell me how you know.
Yeah.
Because Florida State's defense is a bunch of dogs, and their running game's legit.
Yeah.
So you're telling me you can't win like that? Give me a break.
Yeah.
Years ago, when Peyton Manning was playing, they had an opportunity to go undefeated in the regular season, but Tony Dungy sat him on the last game of the season. I think it's one of the worst coaching mistakes ever made in the history of football.
Yeah.
Tony, I love you. I think you won championship, but they sat him the last game of the season. You're a Colts fan at the time.
Yep.
They sat him in the last game of the season. They ended up going 15-1, losing the first round of their playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take the rhythm out of the team.
Yep.
I think if they win that, I think if they start Peyton Manning that game, they go 16-0. I think they could win the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
That's my prediction.
Yeah.
So I think it's just one of those things where I don't understand. I just don't. There's, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you got to stick with the hot hand, man.
I'm with you, dude.
You got to stick with the hot hand. I hate when teams start benching all their great players. Like, let them play the first half, but that's what I'm saying. You got to stick with the hot hand. Florida State kept winning. They kept winning. They kept winning. They kept winning, and you took them out. It's just not right. It's not right.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. No matter what they say, I'd rather play Florida State than Alabama. You're saying that because Nick Saban's on the headset, and Alabama has such a reputation. But this Florida State team is vicious, and those seniors, they're gonna the rest of their life, they'll never know what could have been.
Yeah,
it's messed up.
It's tough.
And if you're really the CFP, then pivot. Let Georgia and Florida State's game matter.
Yeah.
Let Washington and Michigan, let all the games matter. And you're like, well, what happens? Then we have three people that are winning. Well, let Washington, the winner of the Washington and Michigan games, I don't know, figure it out. Like, give somebody a bye. I don't know, but let's figure it out. Like, why can't we pivot? You got all the games already lined up. Let them pivot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe add a game. I don't know. Like, crazier things have been done.
Sure.
It'd make more money somehow. I'm sure they can figure that one out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Well, you asked for it.
Don't blame me. You asked for it.
So let's continue with this negative vibe we've got going here this morning with the hatred on the CFP. And just for the record, I would never want to be in those guys' shoes because I think they're given the CFP. I think they're given a task that's impossible to create a good scenario. There's no way that the people in that CFP committee could have said this is going to be the perfect scenario. So they were given a lose-lose situation, and they were just really going to be hated by a side. They just didn't know which side yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with all that said, what is your least? If you think of Christmas. I mean, we're in that season. We're out right here. We're out in the middle of this.
Oh yeah.
When you think about Christmas, just like Thanksgiving, we think of the things we like to eat: the cookies, the cakes, the pies, the food. Christmas is a little bit different for me and my family. We don't hit up like the typical turkey and mashed potatoes. We do more like random stuff. I know you said you guys do Chinese.
Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah, which
Christmas
is great.
Day, boy.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Christmas is a little bit different, right? I like to do different things too. We've had Thai before. We've done Chinese before. I think we got a brisket this year.
Ooh.
We're going, we switch it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My father-in-law bought this brisket. Anyway, when I think of Christmas, there's one thing that I think of that I absolutely hate eating that is popular.
Okay.
What is something that you think of when it comes to Christmas that people like and you're thinking, well, there's two things I have.
Yeah.
But what is something when you think of Christmas foods that you're like, that is awful. It's disgusting. It's something I'd never want to eat.
Oh boy. I have one in my brain. I'm just trying to think how bad I want to be hated.
I think I know what it is. Little Debbie Christmas tree cakes? Is that what you're thinking of?
What
Are you serious?
Yeah.
How did I get that? Dude, nailed that one. Let's go.
I'm sorry to my wife.
Is it because the foam in your the feeling in your mouth?
And I get it. It's cake. It's cake.
Just
like
cake.
what's wrong with cake? My thing is like there's a weird film to the bottom of those cakes.
Delicious.
That I don't know. There's just something about the feel of it on your tongue that is like I'd pick a million other things before. And I'm sorry, world.
But
I know you're gonna hate.
You hate those things.
It's not. Hate's a strong word. It's just the thing around this season that people go crazy about, and I'm like, I don't understand why you're going crazy about it. It's a vanilla cake, Little Debbie. There's better Little Debbie's. Let's be honest.
Let me help you out then.
Okay,
I'm going to give you somebody that can be hated alongside you because my wife hates them too.
Oh, good. Thank you, Casey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So together, you guys can.
Thank you.
Yeah. So together,
we can relate.
Yeah. So together, you guys have. You guys have made some enemies today for sure.
I know. Yeah.
I'll tell you something I hate is fruitcake.
Oh yeah. Well,
it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Never. Now, somebody did tell me they make fruitcake with gin. And I don't drink, but I'm guessing if you have to get it down, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Soak that thing thick. Fruitcake, those words should never go together.
Yeah.
You should never have chunks of anything in your cake unless it's chocolate.
Yeah.
Or like pudding stuff. I'll take pudding in anything.
There's that famous Jim Gaffigan little sketch that he does where he's like, and fruitcake, how do they even make that? Like the baker comes to the end of his day of all the other cakes that he's made, and like, we'll just put all this junk in here, and that's a fruitcake, basically.
That's basically what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't like the idea of biting into cake and you're chewing on fruit. It's almost like you have a mouthful of food you're trying to get down.
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
I'm with you on that one.
And there's something that is equally nauseating to me, and I don't know what it is with this podcast, but the last 3 weeks straight, I've got a point where I want to gag. This
true.
is one of those
That's
points.
Very true. Yeah.
Eggnog.
Oh yeah. I'm not an eggnog person. Yeah.
Why would you ever drink egg?
Yeah,
that's what I want to know.
Y'all are weird.
And the only way that I can validate it is for those of you who drink alcohol. It's your way to get sauced. That's the only way it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't, your palate is extremely undistinguished and unrefined.
Yeah, I mean, it's also named eggnog. I mean, the name itself makes you want to vomit.
I think I'm getting dizzy. My chin's getting numb.
It's
I'm
hot
sweating.
in here. You're sweating. Yeah.
It's
eggnog.
I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try it. It's got nutmeg and spice and cinnamon. It looks delicious.
Yeah.
Like when you watch a National Lampoons and they're dipping the moose cups in there, I just want to down it. I'm like, that looks like cold and chilled and like a delicious. And then when you actually drink it, you're like, why do I feel like I'm drinking scrambled eggs? This is foul.
It needs cooked. You're like, this thing needs cooked.
I guarantee. I would like. We should do that. We should put a skillet on the oven, get it hot, and drop it in there and see if we can make eggs.
It's called an omelet. Yeah, it's called an omelet.
Is there actual eggs in eggnog?
I would hope so. It's called eggnog. I don't know. We can Google search it. But here's the thing. Here's the thing I do. I make scrambled eggs, and I don't know if you do this at home, but I put a little milk in my scrambled eggs. That's what I do. Makes them a little bit more fluffy. Gives them a good coloring.
Yeah, I put milk in my eggs and make them fluffy.
Yeah,
that's not eggnog.
That's true. It's not. But,
it's cooked eggs.
But I feel like eggnog is. I'm like, you need to cook this or something.
Yeah, it says it's cream, eggs, sugar, milk, which is all the great ingredients for
baking a cake.
Yeah.
But you just need to add flour.
That's exactly what it is.
And bake it.
That's exactly what it is. So for all you listening that like eggnog, you're basically drinking the liquid ingredients of your cake. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. That's all it is.
You're drinking the liquid ingredients of your cake. So
somebody got halfway to making a cake and they're like, I give up, and they drank it. And
no, somebody got halfway to making a cake. Their in-laws were at the door. They poured a bunch of rum into their cake batter and drank it.
There you go.
They said, you know what? I'm not even doing this.
It's a lazy cake.
My in-laws, if you're listening, I love you. I've never done that.
Eggnog is now known as lazy cake.
That's exactly what it is. We've made a discovery here on the podcast. Cow. I think we should probably...
This is brilliant.
Just prepare for the viral moment that's about to happen. It's going to happen. There's no way out of it. So what's your best Christmas gift you've ever received?
Oh, man.
I mean, this is a doozy. If you want, I can start this one.
Yeah, you please start it.
So when I was in high school, I lived in Oakland, Maryland. We're about ready to launch a campus up there on March 31st. Let's go, Oakland. When I was in Oakland, I skied, and I bought skis from a friend for like $100. So like 2-3 years of my life, out of the 6 that I lived up there, I had these skis that I bought for like $100. They were Elons. Great little starter skis. Didn't care if I got them nicked up. Didn't have to do a bunch of waxing. Didn't have to keep them super nice. Had some basic boots. And then I started to get good enough to where I now wanted like something a little better, something a little different. And I got these Atomics, which were awesome. And so we bought them in Ohio. And so woke up on Christmas morning. We left that the next day for Ohio to my grandma lived out there. Got my skis. So I didn't get like my big present on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
I remember being a little bit of a brat that morning because I was an idiot. But the next day went and got those skis, and they were so great because it was like the first thing. It was like a big hobby. Finally got something I really, really wanted.
Yeah.
It was cool. And the second thing that I remember was my Sega Genesis.
Oh.
That was a game changer because we didn't have that was it. That was it. When I got Sonic going on there, and I knew I had all day I could play Madden. It was like my life opened up.
Yeah,
it had the little logos in the end zone at the time. It was beautiful.
Well, it's funny that you basically said one thing that was like a hobby thing you love, and then a video game, because literally the two that came to my mind. Number one being I got a Les Paul electric guitar for Christmas, and it's
a great present.
That set my trajectory to music. It's tattooed on the back of my arm. My very first electric guitar.
That guitar's tattooed, the actual picture, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's just
that's cool.
The Les Paul on the back of my arm. But I had an acoustic up to that point. But that was my first like introduction into electric guitar, and from there it was like, dude, I didn't put that thing down.
That's awesome.
So that's my number one by far. Number two though, when my brother and I got Super Nintendo. I mean, that was like for us. Yours is Sega Genesis. We got a Super Nintendo, and that was like game over from that point.
It's the best feeling in the world. You can just lock it in and hang out and play video games all day. It's the best feeling,
dude.
I think that's why I don't play them as much now. I don't get a chance to. I have, all my kids are on the games and stuff, but it was a great time. Yeah, it's a great time. All right, well, a couple of quick things that I watched this video that was extremely disturbing. All right. It was of this kid, and it said, hey, graphic video, but I just want to say, I coach young men, right? I coach kids, and now I'm like at the point where I'm coaching like 13 I'm coaching like young men. And when I grew up, I fought physically all the time because I was insecure, I was defensive, I had my own issues, I had my own pain that I was working through. And there's probably some support things that I lacked. And so I didn't have some of that. And I knew that's what like my frustration came out of. And that's what I fought a lot. And looking back, I'm like, you're an idiot. You didn't have to do that, But when I see kids getting like legit fights, I'm old enough now to where they all feel like they could be my son. So it feels different than just, man, he shouldn't have ran his mouth, or he shouldn't have said that racial thing, or whatever it may be. You look past every reason that there might be I don't think there's ever a valid reason unless you're defending yourself, but a reason for the confrontation, and it just breaks your heart because we're in such an angry world, and I don't know what it's going to look like when these kids are adults, because we live in a society that I think has created an environment of video camera and videotape. And back in the day, like right now when my kids do anything, like let me see the picture. It's immediate, right?
Yeah.
Or hey, they have an at bat. Let me see that at bat when they get home. Or they have the big play. Did you get that on video? And they're so used to seeing themselves. And I think there's some great things about that. It's a great learning tool. It's a great technique. There's great for a lot of things, but it's also detrimental for a lot of things because it's this constant, you're constantly judging yourself.
Yeah.
You're constantly seeing things. But in that, I think people are videoing more than they care sometimes. Like they'll watch an accident happen and they're videoing it. I'm like, would you go over there? The car is on fire.
Yes.
Like, come on, guys. Don't be morons. Like a car is on fire.
Yeah.
Or people have an emotional. I watch these guys who are influencers and they do stuff for their wives that's so sweet and romantic. But I'm like, well, who's videoing it? You ever feel like that?
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, you did this for your wife? Like there's got to be a third person in the room.
Yeah.
And if there's not, if my wife comes in to do something for me and she's carrying a phone to video me, I'm thinking, well, what's this really for? It takes the authenticity out of it. It's like, upload that later if it's a picture of you and your wife or if you want to share it. But I struggle because there's so much you don't want to share with the world because it's not in the moment. Like there's moments I'm going to have with my family, my kids, my wife that I'm just not sharing. It's not because I don't want you to be there. It's like I don't want to miss the moment myself.
Yeah.
Do I want you there? Sure.
Yeah.
You can be there. I'd love for you to see how, even in that's fine. But what's happening in the society we're in now is that we're all journalists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's more important than human.
Yes.
The human need.
Bro.
And so 17 years ago, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, not 17 years ago, years ago, 17 students were killed there.
Yeah.
In a mass shooting. Well, there was a video that just came out that just happened. There was a kid, and it wasn't on the high school. The principals come out and said it wasn't on the high school campus, but it was a park right next to the high school, and it was by kids who didn't all go to the high school. This kid was essentially chased by 15 kids and beaten up, and it looked like it was, I could be wrong in saying this because I only saw the one video, but it looked like it was, in my opinion, could have been racially motivated. It looked like the white kid got beat up, and there's a bunch of black kids chasing him, and honestly, my first thought was the dude either A, brought it on himself, like said something he shouldn't have, or it was a racially motivated. Because when you see that, you're thinking, what did this kid do to get that? Like, did he say something? Did he, that's my first thought. Like,
sure, yeah.
Was it a racial comment? And dude, you can't do that crap. Like I am not insinuating anything. I'm just telling you, when I watched the video, it looked like it could be, there's racial tension potentially in this thing. Because when you see this white kid getting beat up and there's a bunch of black kids, honestly, it broke my heart on both sides.
Yeah.
White, black, didn't matter. It just broke my heart, period. But when I see it, my response was, in the climate that we're in, was it racially motivated to attack this kid, or did this kid do something to instigate it?
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Do I think it's right on either count? No, I don't. But they slammed this kid. They picked this kid up. They started beating him up like a mob. And everybody's like, oh, and they're filming it. Then somebody picks him up on their shoulder and slams his head on the ground, on concrete, and he just goes like to nothing. And he's face first. And bro, it took everything I had to not just break down watching this, like bawling, because my heart was broken for every kid there.
Yeah.
One, for the kids who are shouting and they're yelling. And I'm like, what if you killed this kid? Do you realize? Do they even care?
Yeah. Yeah.
And two, what did this kid do to deserve this? There's nothing anybody could do to deserve that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter what color or race you are.
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be a level of forgiveness and grace, which we're obviously not teaching our children. It's never okay. And I don't know, again, I don't know what caused this. I don't know what the motivation was. I'm not saying it was racial. I'm saying you can't watch the video and not think that it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period. And that's a problem in our country. It's a sick problem, right? Black people, minorities, Asians, they don't get to, whenever things in our culture, I was just on a call yesterday with an incredible organization I'm a part of, Let's Talk Live, with Dr. Derek Greer. And something that was brought to our attention that's so true is that whenever the media and the culture is no longer talking about race, minorities still deal with it every day.
Yeah.
They still deal with it every day. So I'm not, again, I can't say it enough. I don't know what instigated this. Initially watching it, you just think, well, it's black on white or white on black. It must be racially motivated. That's what I think when I see it. Maybe it's because we're programmed to think that.
Yeah.
But because generally when it's like that, somebody did something, especially when there's that much anger in it.
Yeah.
Because these kids aren't fighting just a kid. They're fighting a society they've had to grow up in.
Yeah.
And I completely understand it. Their parents are fighting that. A lot of bitter racist black people, a lot of bitter racist white people. So I get that. And I am not saying that's the purpose. What I'm trying to say is, mom and dads, at some point you got to take responsibility for the way your kids act, because they're acting out most likely your reactions to things on both sides of this puzzle.
Yeah.
Again, this could have nothing to do with race. I refuse to believe that, no matter what comes out about it. But I will say this kid's laying unconscious on the ground. They couldn't get him. They say he cracked his skull. He was bleeding. He's in the hospital. They say he's going to survive. But the brutality of which this kid was demolished with, and this is not, I don't care what color he was. It was a kid on the ground with his backpack.
Yeah.
I do not care. It broke me in half, man. And everybody was standing around yelling and videoing it. And I'm thinking, what have we created?
Yeah.
There is a kid that needs help. What have we created?
Yeah.
And I can tell you this. My issue was the amount of cameras and everyone hyping it up. Kids think they're real tough mobbing another student. Like, come on, man. What are you standing up for? You're going to be the guy that goes to prison. You're going to be the guy. You know what I mean? What are you really standing up for?
Yeah.
If that's my kid, I'm going to put everybody on notice right now. If that's my kid,
yeah,
your boy's going to looking for the parents.
Yeah.
You think, oh, you tough, you this or that. I'm just telling you, I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
If that's my kid and somebody body slams his head into the pavement and it's a mob, I'm going to find the family.
Yeah.
Am I doing the same thing to them? No. But I'm telling you, in my frustration as a parent, if that happens to your kid, you tell me you ain't going to find somebody who did that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You telling me? Come on, man.
Yeah.
And you say, well, I'm going to jail because I'm going to go find them. I don't care if it's a kid or a parent. And we're going to have a conversation. And first of all, what in the world do you think? What do you, like, help me understand your logic here. You're slamming somebody's head on the ground.
Yeah.
And then the parent, have you lost your godforsaken mind? Like, your kid is this wild? Your kid is this out of control, and you're going to tell me they have any self-control. I don't care how angry they are. I don't care how much the racism is in this country. You're saying, what's it from a white male? I am telling you as a human being, that showed me that our society has no self-control when that's the way our kids act. If that's the way your kids are acting, what do you think the parents act like? Black, white, Asian, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's our society. And every race, nobody's excused because for any reason. Every race has got it. We are all people. Everybody has to be responsible. When I see this, I'm thinking that's the temperature of society because of parents that have no self-control.
Yeah.
Kids are a byproduct. I've heard people say kids are just entitled these days. They get it from you, mom and dad. You're the reason they're entitled. They're not entitled. They're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're not entitled. They're kids. It's your fault they're entitled. Your fault. You created that.
Yeah.
I've heard people say it even in the baseball world. Oh, these kids have everything. Yeah, who bought it for them? You bought it. So whose fault is it that your kid is a selfish brat?
Yeah.
It's your fault. Whose fault is it that your kid acts like that? It's your fault. I mean, and I'm not isolated to this. Like, I've had many conversations with my 13-year-old.
Yeah.
But if that happened to my kid, bro, I'd be going after. He's walking from school to this park to get his car or whatever. Oh,
yeah.
I'm in that principal's office, and I'm in the middle of that school the next day, and I want explanations. I want answers. I'm finding parents. I mean, I would be all up in the middle of that thing. You do that to one of my boys,
yeah.
I don't care what he said or did. There's never an excuse to assault somebody like that. I don't care what they say. I don't care what a white kid says to a black kid, what a black kid says to a white kid. I do not care. You don't have any reason to do that to a human. Mm-hmm. And so my thing is, when do they start disciplining these kids like they're adults? That's attempted murder if I do that to somebody out here.
Oh, yeah.
So as a kid, well, they're not 18. Well, then sentence their parents. Maybe that'll teach them. So when Johnny goes to do that, they think, well, I don't want my dad to go to prison for 10 years. Well, then don't do it. Like, they're sentencing parents right now. The shooting right here in Newport News, they sentenced the mother for the kid that brought the gun to school and shot the teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're sentencing parents now for that stuff. Somebody's got to be held responsible. You can't just slap their wrist because they're 6 years old. Somebody's got to be held responsible for these kids doing this stuff. Where are they getting it? Yeah. 6-year-old went to the gun store by himself and bought the gun and loaded it. And no, there is somebody responsible for that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
dude, that's intense, man. I like even the sheer fact of thinking through, because I've seen videos like that, and that's way more intense than even the one that I saw the other day. But you're sitting there filming, and potentially someone's life is like, we don't value human life like our own. Like, as a culture, we're like, yeah, of course my life. But I mean, you get in all sorts of conversations about abortion and all sorts of stuff when it comes to this topic. But even just like, yeah, that culture of just like, I'm gonna sit back, not my problem, I'm gonna film it and have comment. Dude, I was watching a video of, like, you seen these videos of on the interstate where it's snowing really, really bad, and it's just these massive piles of cars. Well, I was watching a video and the guy's on the other side, so he's safe, but he's just filming all these cars and 18-wheelers just smashing into one another, and everything is screaming in my brain, bro, start running up the road and signaling to people to slow down. But no one on the safe side of the road is running up the road to try and contact these people to say slow down.
They're just making sure they get on video.
They're just filming. And I'm like, put your camera down.
And sometimes I don't even know if it's instinctual for us to do that. Instead, like, our instinct now is to film instead of help, because it's almost like the reaction used to be, I've got to do something. And so I wonder if it's almost not even a bad heart, but it's just instinctual of like, I got to get this on camera.
Yeah, like, no one's going to believe me unless I capture this. But it's like, dude, this speed at which these people are crashing, it's like people are getting seriously injured, potentially dead. And if you could run up the road and warn them, like, start running, dude. As soon as you stop your car, start running. Like,
dude, do you ever notice you're sitting at stoplights and like the cars aren't going anywhere and you like honk? It's because everybody's on their phone.
Yeah,
you know, it's amazing the amount of time I'm sitting there. I'm thinking, dude, I get it. Like, we have these things in our hands. I get it. My biggest thing is when you see fights like this, the need for human care has never changed. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Like, we have to care for each other. And this, to me, wasn't a reflection of the kids, a reflection of the parents. Yeah, the kids have their own mind. I get it.
Yeah.
But for your kids to brutally attack somebody like that,
yeah,
I can't even tell you what I would do as a dad. If my son did that, the reason I can't tell you is, one, under no circumstance could I ever imagine one of my kids brutally attacking somebody. I know that's not in their character. It's not what we teach. Yeah. I'm present in my kids' lives. I'm a part of their life. They would never be a part of that. I'm saying it now. My kids would never be a part of a mob brutally attacking somebody. They wouldn't. I don't teach it. We don't do that. They know better. We have trained them up. They know the core values of our family. They know what they are sensitive to the Holy Spirit. Like, my kids are sinners. My kids make mistakes. My kids get in trouble in school like every other kid. My kids get good grades. My kids get bad grades. My kids have strikeouts. My kids hit home runs. Like, it's the same as every other kid.
Yeah.
But when your kid is doing those things, step up.
Yeah.
Like, represent. My kids, they're imperfect. I mean, everybody listening, you're going to be able to watch my kids make a lot of mistakes because we're public. You know, like, my kids don't get to live a private life.
Yeah.
In their world. They don't, right? And to agree, your kids won't.
Yeah.
You know? But under no circumstance would I ever in a million years think they'd be a part of something like that. And it's because we have a responsibility as parents to teach our children how to love people. Mm-hmm. And I can't ever think of a reason other than self-defense that my kids should be in an altercation.
Yeah.
You know, my kid the other day, there's influences and one of my boys, I always tell him there's certain influences he's got to avoid. And he's already telling me stories of things that, like, had he not avoided things, he would have been in a mix. Mm-hmm. And he's realizing I could lose everything that fast. I'm like, yeah, you can. You know what I mean? So,
well, let me ask you this, even as a parent, because my wife and I, like, especially as our oldest, he's 10 now, is getting older, and our conversations definitely change because he's getting older. But like, my wife and I got to this point the other day, we're like, man, I'm just like, as a parent, I'm so exhausted of just being on my kids all the time. Like, like you want to be I want to be a fun parent for a little bit. Like, but you're constantly on them. You're constantly kind of correcting and guiding, and yeah, you can be a little overbearing at times, but I've found, I want to know even from your perspective too, but I've found with my 10-year-old, because he's got a little higher level of accountability than my youngest, and those conversations have absolutely changed over the years to more of like, well, this is why I'm on you. This is why I'm trying to correct this thing in your life. This is why we're having conversations maybe about your anger, or maybe about like, these things in your life. And as I explain more and more why, I feel like he's starting to understand. He's still a kid, but he's starting to understand why, as parents, we're going to drive you kind of hard, because it's my job to prepare you for this life, and you're already in it. You're already living in it. But I don't know, even your perspective is raising 4 boys. I think a lot of our culture too is just a lot of people just aren't on their kids. Like, they're just whatever. Like, at some point you get exhausted of parenting. And I think for my wife and I, that's our conversations of like, yeah, I'm exhausted from parenting, but I have to, like, that doesn't matter. Like, that's the burden that I have to carry as the parent of like, I still have to parent. And I don't know what that balance looks like for you and your conversations with your 13-year-old compared to other kids, but that's been a topic of my kind of our home for especially probably the last 6 months. Is kind of like,
yeah. I mean, I think I have, with my 4 boys, some of them take a lot more than others.
Yeah.
Like my oldest, he comes in yesterday right off the bus, and I'm talking to my wife in my office, and he's like, he wants to go outside and need to throw a football with him. Mm-hmm. Haven't seen him all day.
Yeah.
So that needs to be, to me, it's a priority. Like,
yeah.
But I earn the voice with my kids because of the time I spend with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't always drop everything for them, but if it's not something that has to be dealt with, I'll drop it, because I don't get that time with them all the time. They're in school, they got a lot going on, and I think being on, I know when you say that, we feel like we're on top of them all the time. You feel like you're just correcting every little thing.
Yeah.
And I think that for sometimes it can feel like there is a fine line between correction and control. And it's like, is it something that really they're doing innately bad, or is it something that just bothers you?
Yeah.
Because sometimes things that they do that actually doesn't really bother us, but they shouldn't be doing, is actually stuff that's worse to them than things that do bother us.
Yeah.
So for me, like if I go to somebody's house, my kids, don't wear your shoes in the house. Don't come in and out of the door all the time. Like, go outside, do what you gotta do, but like, you're not gonna be running out all day. Like, that's a basic thing. So when I go to somebody's house, I'm thinking, like, say we go visit you guys. Say your boys are doing that, and they're used to like coming out, because your rules are different. It's not bad, it's just different, right? Yeah. In my house, we don't do that, but in your house, you do that. And you're okay with they coming in and out the back door. You don't care. Like, they're just coming outside. For us, I got 4 kids, and I literally will have the door open every 3 minutes throughout the whole Saturday. I'm like, listen, if you're going to go outside, like, you're okay to come in and out, but like, don't come in and out every time you need a drink. Take a water bottle with you. Little things like that, right? So let's say we go to your house and your kids are doing it. I wouldn't be like, well, their kids are doing it, it's cool here. I'd be like, hey, y'all know that's not how we do business. Honor the people's house we're at. Like, I told you once, like, my kids, they know, like, it's not delayed obedience is disobedience. So I'm like, hey, don't do this. Like, well, he did it. I'm like, I'm not telling you what he did. I'm telling you what I need you to do.
Oh, yeah.
And so like, last night, one of my kids, my oldest, I said something, and he retorted, not in a back talking way, but in a way of like trying to explain his point in like kind of a stern way. And I said, hey, don't forget who you're talking to. Like, I'm your dad.
Yeah.
You're not going to disrespect me. You're not going to disrespect any adult with that tone, period. And it's not like, and me and him, the thing with Caden is he's 100 miles an hour. People love him, but he doesn't cause trouble or nothing, but he's just 100 miles an hour. People love him. He's a hardcore kid. And he takes a lot of parenting because he is unleashed as a human.
Yeah.
It's a great attribute. But you got to parent him.
Yeah.
Because if not, he would be out of control. I have other kids that are more hesitant, but if I don't parent them well, they're going to experiment way too much when they get out of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think it's that thing of like our no's are no's, our yeses are yeses.
Mm-hmm.
Our kids don't talk us out of things. So I say, hey, don't do this. They say, well, and then I let them do it.
Yeah.
Like my kids don't talk me out of stuff. It's like I'm the parent, and I realize like they're getting to the age now where like my buddies, like Caden's 13. I love hanging out with him. I love like if I got to go somewhere, it's like, hey, you want to roll? Like, oh, I went to an event a couple weeks ago, like 3 hours from here. I got him out of school early. He rode with me. Like he loves stuff like that. And we got to eat dinner together, like just spend time. The other day, we had an event right after church for the team that we play on, and so we went to the event. And after the event, we went to sushi, all you can eat. We just hung out and talked, and then I'd take him to youth that night. I spent the whole day with him. Like I love spending time with my boys.
Yeah.
I think the thing with parenting is like you feel like you're always on top of them, but a lot of times people don't realize leadership's the same thing.
Yeah.
You're not correcting every little thing somebody does, but you're constantly trying to lead them to a place of greatness.
Yeah.
And I think with kids, my wife's a good mix for this because she's more laid back to me. Like my wife demands respect, and she's a great mom, but I have a tendency to lean more into the control instead of actually parenting. Like I start controlling things, and she'll be like, "Brain, you're just so controlling. Like you can't be like that." And I'm like, "Dang, you're right." It doesn't always come out like that. Like, it takes me a while. But she's right. Whereas sometimes I'm like, why do you, like they were playing hide and seek in the house the other day. I'm like, Case, I don't want them to play hide and seek in the house. This place is for chilling, it's for resting. I don't want them doing that because then I got like bedspreads are undone and clothes are moved and they find presents. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want them doing that in the house. And then eventually she was like, yeah, you're right. But it was like, it wasn't because she was wrong. It was like my wife is a lot more laid back and fun and doesn't like take all the fun of everything like me. I'm like, nah, this ain't happening. And sometimes I need that. And sometimes she needs what I have. And so, yeah, I think there's that level. I think for me, control is not discipline. Like discipline is telling them not to do something and they do it. There's actually a repercussion. Like if our kids don't feel the weight of the bad decisions now, they're going to have to feel them later. And that's on me. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like luckily for me, my oldest, he's starting to see the weight of decisions that he didn't make and what it would have happened if he done. But there'll be times where he makes a decision. He's like, I really wish I wouldn't have done that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so I think for me, discipline is so important with your kids. Like, hey, bro, like last night, kids are, okay, just being transparent. My kids were playing hide and seek, running through the house. And Rylan comes downstairs and says, Caden's on the roof. So we have a balcony off of our bedroom on the second floor, and there's a roof that comes down to the balcony.
Yeah.
And Caden jumped up on the roof off the balcony. And I come upstairs and say, everybody get in your rooms. Just everybody get in your room. Everybody get ready for bed. It was like, my little ones go to bed at like 7:38. Yeah. My older ones go to bed at like 9:15. I said, everybody in bed. Or everybody brush your teeth, get your clothes on, whatever. And they all like, yes, sir. They all went right, did it. And I said, Caden, have you lost your godforsaken mind? I said, if you fall off that roof, your season's over probably. I said, you're going to if you fall off that roof, you're probably getting screws put in your leg or your arm. And that's like, that you'll never be the same. Yeah. We just went to the dentist on Monday because he chipped his tooth in half on Saturday, and you saw it.
I did. It's the first thing he told me about.
He came right off the Dumb and Dumber set.
Look,
it came right off of He came out right out of the van with Harry and Lloyd. But anyway, all that to say, that's Caden. Yeah. He's intense. He's 100 miles an hour, and I wouldn't want him any other way. He's a leader. He's an influencer. But I'm like, what are you thinking, dog? Yeah. Like, whoever told you? I said, you always push it. Whoever told you to go out on the balcony, and then who told you to go on the roof from the balcony? Like, have you lost your mind? You realize if you fall, like, and he just doesn't think of it.
They don't. Yeah, they don't.
And so I just told him, just go to your bed. Just go to your room. Yeah, brush your teeth, get your clothes on.
Yeah.
And then, I put little ones down, and then Katie and Riley went upstairs and watched, like, Dude Perfect. Shout out Dude Perfect.
Hey.
They went upstairs and watched Dude Perfect, and they wanted to show me some episodes that I'd missed or whatever. So we went up there and hung out for a little bit, and then went to bed, and it was fine. Like, I didn't see them this morning. I was out of the house before they got up. But my point is, it's like, I think that for us, I don't let anything pass. Like, sometimes, like, yeah, man, just don't do it again. Like, honestly, the big stuff they get in trouble with, like, if they get in trouble at school or something, I'm pretty lenient on that stuff because they're usually lessons I can teach.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the little stuff like that, it's like, go to your room. You're acting like an idiot. You shouldn't be on the roof. Don't be a moron.
Also, great place to hide.
It is a great place to hide. He's all smiling and stuff. I'm like, dude, get in your room. But my point is, I think that the parenting, we don't have it right. I mean, Casey and I are like everybody else. We're trying to do our best. We lead them to the Lord. Yeah. We make sure they see that God is in our life, number one, not because of what we say, but they see it in our life. They look at our home. They look at where we live. They say, man, God's been so good to us. They walk through the house and say that.
Yeah.
they say God's been so faithful. Like my boys know everything that's on their hands and feet, God gave them. They know everything in their backpack, God gave them. They know everything in their room, God gave us.
Yeah.
He's provided, and he will continue to provide. And so we teach the core values that will guide their life. Are they going to make mistakes? Yes. Do we get on them for everything? Yeah, I do. I don't control them, but I make sure if they make a mistake, am I on them? Not really. But if it's stuff I say don't do and they do, there's discipline. It's not always long. It's like, get in your room, get ready for bed, or,
probably culture things. I mean, just.
And so like you can't govern the raindrops, but we absolutely just discipline the clouds.
Yeah.
But I want my kids to know, like, they'll come to me. Like Caden, he won't come to me. He'll come to me for just about everything, like in his life. But I'm still his dad, and there's guys like you and Adam. Buddy, there's people in his life that he's comfortable that, like, he has men in his life apart from me that love the Lord and are a huge part of his life.
Yeah.
That I'm grateful for. And so I think for me, part of raising my kids is like giving men in their life platforms.
Yeah.
Like he saw one of our assistant coaches on Sunday, and he went up and gave him the biggest hug. This assistant coach, shout out to Fonzie. He has a huge influence in Caden's life. He loves Caden. Caden loves him. Our boys have played together for years, but Coach Fonzie's, honestly, whether we're at All-Stars in Richlands, Virginia, or we're whatever, he'll pull Caden aside and give him the hard truth.
Yeah.
And he'll tell him, like, you need to hear this. And Caden listens to him.
Mm-hmm.
I need men like that around my boys.
Yeah.
And women that are around them, like the Matt and Amanda Olivers. Like, there's people in their life that they're like aunts and uncles to them, and they feel like that. Like my boys feel like they're related to us. They don't understand everybody's not related to us.
Yeah.
But I think when you're raising kids as parents, you're a part of it, but a part of our responsibility is putting healthy people around them that can help raise them. Like with your boys, like I know Maddox, like I coached Maddox. Like I know I'll hopefully always have a place in his life to be able to speak truth because I know him on a different level.
Yeah.
Like even now I'll talk to him. He'll talk to me about things just because I know him. Like I'll be like, so tell me about this. And he'll talk to me because I've coached him. Mm-hmm. Right? There's inside jokes. There's things. Yeah. But I think that's what, as a parent, we have a responsibility to put them around healthy adults to speak into their life because they need more than us.
Yep.
And that's, I think, a huge part of it too.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's a long answer for a short question.
Hey, I loved it though.
You know what I mean?
It. Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, hey, I have a final thought.
Here's my final thought.
I just want everybody to know out there, you learned a lot about me last week in last week's podcast with Dimitrik. So this week, I want to tell you one more fun fact. I wrote the sports section for a college newspaper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I won awards in journalism. Man. That's right.
However, songwriter, a journalist.
My wife was a resident director at the college at the time, and I wrote for the paper because they asked me to, and I wasn't a student, and I still won awards.
You didn't even go there.
Didn't even go there. But it was funny because today when I was putting the podcast together, I wasn't going there at the time. When I put the podcast together, I was just thinking about what are you thinking about?
Yeah,
I was thinking about all the things in my life I've written for. I wrote every week for this article. I wrote the article every week for the newspaper. I've written songs that were phenomenal that Nashville would kill to have. I've performed those same written songs. I've preached, I teached, I've traveled, I've taught. Just so many things that I've gotten degrees. Just so many things that God's allowed me to do in my life. Moved to Virginia Beach when I'm from Northern Virginia. Just so many amazing things. Been in and out of Missouri. Like God has done so much in my life, and I'm realizing that there's a lot of full circle moments I have right now where I see so many things He's put together, and it's giving me the opportunity to do what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. I just want to encourage people, like, you may feel like what you're doing has no long-term benefit, but I promise you there are things you did in your life to get where you're at. There are things you're doing right now that are pertinent to where you're going. So don't push these things off like it's a busy season or a season. I'm telling you, whether you're cutting grass or leading a Fortune 500, you're picking up trash or you're stocking shelves or you're teaching a school or you're preaching on a Sunday. I've had people say to me, I didn't know you worked other than a Sunday. I wish that was the case sometimes. But Sunday is just a part. It's the 10%. One message takes about 12 hours of prep, right?
Yeah.
And so my point is, don't despise these beginnings. Because for some of us, we're in small beginnings. For others, you're reaping the benefit of those beginnings you were faithful to.
That's good.
And so I just thought about that today, and it was just a fun fact I wanted to share to let you know that I am great in yet another area of my life. But hey, we love you guys. We're grateful for you. I want to pray over you. Lord, I thank you for each and every listener. I pray they would know you're with them. God, they would know your hand is on them. I pray they have the best Christmas ever. Father, that they would know that you're not a God of fruitcakes, but you are a God of abundance. We love you. We love you. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, love you guys. We'll see you this Sunday, 9:30. Also, those of you looking for Christmas Eve, we have Christmas Eve at Palms on the 24th. We have one big service, 9:30 a.m. We're going to pack the house. Can't wait for you to be there. Got a great day. We'll see you this week.